I just came outside and I'm already starting to sweat. It is really hot out here. But welcome back, everybody. This is Secret Garden YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Today, we're going to be doing a review 1 year later on my garden shade cloth. The original video I put up is linked above where I showed how I installed it. The only difference currently from that setup is that I have one T-post missing right there, which is why it's sagging a little bit. I had to pull it out to work on something in there, so it's just currently not there. But this is the same setup that I've had since last year. So the quick and dirty review is that this shade cloth has been absolutely amazing. It has helped immensely. So if you're familiar with Texas or growing anything in Texas or anywhere where it gets really as hot as it does here, you know that we really cannot grow any type of veggies really like tomatoes, peppers, that kind of stuff throughout July and then August. Really the end of June through August, it is so absolutely hot. We can't grow anything. So we kind of had two growing seasons, one in our spring, which usually starts in February, and then again starting in September for our fall. So what I did here, putting this up, was trying to allow myself to really grow throughout the entire year. And last year, I was able to prove that I could do that using this. It absolutely made a huge, huge difference. Nothing died throughout the summer, which usually completely fries. I was able to get tomatoes all the way through the whole year, peppers through the whole year, something I've not been able to do living in Texas. That made an absolute huge difference. Now, the one thing that I did not include in the video, the previous video from last year, was I never actually took the temperature to show the difference between out here unshaded and then in here shaded, protected by the cloth. You can actually see how much it does. So let's go ahead and do that now to see exactly how much cooler it is inside the garden where it's being shaded. Okay, so I got our thermometer here, so let's go ahead and see the temperature of the ground where the shade cloth is not covering. Got 110 degrees here, 110 degrees there. So as you can see, it is a very, very hot day today. So now let's look at the garden and see how it's faring. Now, the garden, 90 degrees. Look at that. That is absolutely incredible. A 20-degree drop by this shade cloth. And that's just at the edge there. See if we get any difference when we get a little bit more in. 87 degrees, and that's about the middle of it here. Maybe over here to see if there's any difference. 90 degrees. So we're at about a 90 degrees. Some a little bit cooler, some a little bit hotter. So we're at about 90 degrees inside under the shade cloth. So a 20-degree difference is honestly a huge, huge difference. If you're growing things like, tomatoes and peppers, anything that fruit, you really cannot keep fruit on the plants really in that 95 and above range. It really doesn't work. And even in the 90s is really, really difficult. If you get fruit that come up on your peppers, they'll just fall off. Even if you keep them really watered, me personally at least, I've had no luck. I cannot keep it. With this here, keeping it nice in the 88 to 90 range, that has been a huge help. And remember, so right now, I guess I didn't say, right now it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're pretty much peak heat, peak temperature right now. And so at the worst case scenario, we're at 90 degrees. That is a huge, huge difference, 20-degree temperature change, which makes a massive difference when you're trying to grow a garden. Now let's look at, and see, I can bring you over here. We can talk about some of the pros and cons. One thing as a pro real fast is that this really is cheap and easy. I mentioned that on the other one. All I did was have to buy some of these T-posts here, and then I've got the shade cloth on Amazon. It was from Be Cool Solutions. The link is below if you want to take a look at it. I definitely recommend this specific shade cloth. There's plenty of other ones on there. If you're going to buy a shade cloth, buy whichever one you want. But this one specifically, just because I've had it now up for over a year, and looks brand new still. There's absolutely no wear until we had multiple really bad winds last year that did not do any damage to it at all. I know some shade cloths had bad ratings saying that the wind tore them up, for example. This is perfect. It allows all the rain through. It really has worked out really, really well. And I believe, I'm not mistaken, this was a 50% shade cloth as well. Now, right off, you can probably tell one of the negatives here, and I've actually fixed this a little bit this year, but that is, if you look right here, you can see as part of the garden is still getting full sun and part is shaded. Now, the important thing here is that this changes throughout the day. So, for example, because this really just depends on where the sun is in the sky. So, because my shade cloth here is a good 5 feet or so above the plants, depending on where the sun is and where it's angled at, different parts of the garden could still get sun depending on the time of the day. So really for me here, it just slowly encroaches in just a little bit by this 4 o'clock time. If you notice, I've only got a little few leaves over there on that pepper plant over there on that garden bed that really get exposed. And that's pretty much the most of it. There's a little bit here on the edge of the garden bed there that's getting on the loofahs that are trying to come in, the cantaloupe. They get a little bit more sun in the afternoon hours. You can't really do much about that because the sun is coming up from right over here right now. So I'd have to have the shade cloth a lot lower. So that is one negative that you can have. But I will note that the only reason why this is an issue for me is because I have to have the shade cloth higher because I'm growing tomatoes. They're small now because we're still pretty early in our season, but these tomatoes are going to get well over 6 feet tall. They're going to actually pushing up on this shade cloth and want to go higher. If you don't grow tomatoes or grow things that get really high, you can actually lower this shade cloth down and then it'll give you a lot better coverage. And one other thing is I'm going to say here is it is good to have a little bit of slack here when you're doing this because throughout the season, if you don't water your lawn as well, for any reason, you have a drought, and if you don't water as much, these T-posts will actually get to where they try to start to sagging a little bit. They won't stand up as straight. And at that point in time, you can take your zip ties and just tighten them up a little bit to keep this nice and straight. It is so hot out here that my phone just went into safety shutdown. Yeah, it gets ridiculous. And it is only April. It's April. It's not even May or June or July. Yeah. If you live in Texas, you should buy a shade cloth. This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so all in all, honestly, I give this a 5 out of 5. I absolutely love it. I definitely recommend this shade cloth or using a shade cloth in general. If you are growing plants in Texas or really anywhere where it gets really hot, where it gets in the mid 90s or higher, here it gets well over 100. You really do need a shade cloth if you're trying to grow veggies. It really is essential. Um, this one specifically here I like because I have plenty of zip ties. I can take this thing down and put it back up whenever I want. If you have a few days where it's really hot and then it gets cool again in the 80s, like for us, for example, this week it's in the hundreds, but then next week it's going to be 82 again for a week or two. So I'm actually going to take it back off and then I'll put it back on when it's really hot again. A few zip ties, not the big of a deal. It's easy to put up and down. I think it looks pretty. I like this one because it's white. I think it looks nice. T-posts going into the ground, not that big of a deal. I leave them there all year round, even if I don't have the shade cloth up. It really isn't a big deal. I think it looks nice. And this is honestly a huge, huge help if you want to actually successfully grow veggies in Texas or anywhere where it gets really hot. Okay, so I hope I answered any questions that you might have. If I didn't, if you have anything to comment, anything to add, any questions at all that you might have, make sure you comment below if you haven't yet. And shame on me for not telling you already, you should probably smash and obliterate that like button. It would be very helpful. I very much appreciate it. Again, thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. I very much appreciate it. Have a great day.